Hey, gang. This is Up the Middle with your hosts on the right, the homeless conservative Blake Fisher, and on the left, the Democratic nominee for Congress in the 7th District of Ohio, Matt Diemer. And somewhere in the middle, I'm retired Secret Service Special Agent Ross Yerger. You'll come to know me as Yergs. Let's get to it. Hey, gang. Oh, there we go. Get rid of that. There we go. Blake's traveling. Matt's on his way. I'm Yergs. It's Friday. We're never really upset if somebody's not here right away on a Friday because it's Friday. You don't get upset on Fridays. Coming up today, lots of announcements for Up the Middle. We are starting Monday live, like we are right now, but we will be live on Monday 5 days a week at our one Atlanta affiliate, 99.1 WDJY. Again, that's in Atlanta. Available at WDJYFM.com. For the outskirts of Atlanta that might not get the signal. Coming soon to Atlanta. What is it? I got to find it. This is a new one. America One Radio, a progressive internet station in Atlanta. It's very interested in what we're doing. To include our conservative side, that's key. But the whole network is 99.1 WDJY in Atlanta, where every day starting at 11. And on Monday and Friday every day starting at 11. And on Monday, it will go till 1 o'clock instead of noon. 1 hour every day for Atlanta. Today we go till 1 o'clock. It's just that Atlanta cuts at noon and Tampa Bay picks up. That, of course, is 1490 WWPR in Bradenton and Tampa Bay. Then also starting soon will be AmericaOneRadio.com. Again, that was Atlanta. The UG is in like the underground. It's not what it stands for. It's what I thought it stood for. .media. They're in London. We are now the voice and the ears for the UK. And of course, Rainbow Radio and Yergs Radio and the rest of the Yergs Radio network, working on Brooksville, Florida, and St. Pete, Clearwater, Florida, coming soon. I think he's here. Yeah. My guy, what's happening?
What's up, my man? How you doing?
There you go. There it is. You're back. Is that like a garage? What do you got going on there?
Yeah, we're in the garage today, man. I like being outside.
Nice. Yeah, I wish I could go out on the back deck, but we get too many thunderstorms that just kind of roll through, and
yeah, that sounds horrific. That sounds horrific.
That doesn't end well. So happening today, JD Vance continues his spiral. Kamala spiraling as well, but in an upward direction, very much an upward direction. And you know what? I forgot to cut and paste the rest of this. Trump is playing the race card still. Like, it's even worse than it was when he was with the black journalists. Political prisoners are home in what apparently has been the biggest prisoner swap, or one of the biggest prisoner swaps in history, in American history. Of course, that's a win for Biden. Trump was apparently livid when he found out that it happened, because I guess his buddy across the ocean didn't hear the dog whistle that he'll do it before he's even inaugurated or whatever. And We seem to be finishing Trump news. We seem to be finishing Trump news with what are they thinking? Like, I've said it before, Matt. You didn't agree with me, but I seriously don't think Trump wants to be president.
Hmm.
I mean, look at what these two knuckleheads are saying. But finally, it's another big day. This is at the end of the show, so it kind of fit pretty good. 12:45 today. Do you know what's happening?
12:45. I don't know.
The DNC delegates vote for the nominee.
Oh, is that the virtual thing today?
Yeah.
Well, they have to have their the VP at the same time too.
Don't they have to have what?
The VP.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, so we're gonna know who the VP is then today.
Oh, that VP. That I don't know. That's a good question.
I didn't think that you were able to. I thought you had to have your VP before you did the delegate thing, or is that maybe just before the conference? I don't know. I don't know, dude.
No, because
everything's out of order
until the conference.
Say what?
When I was with Hillary, Biden wasn't picked until the conference.
Right, and so that's how it goes. But if you're going to nominate the candidate before the conference, this is the de facto conference, right?
Yeah,
you can't really nominate the person without the VP. It's like, hey, let me nominate this person for president, and then all of a sudden, oh, you're the person that's on the ballot, and then next thing you know, Donald Trump VP. We're like, wait a minute, we didn't sign up for this, did we?
Right. Yeah, that's a good question. But this is, I guess, all because of the Ohio situation where there's some. Yeah, what you know that's where you're at. What's the deal with that? What is that all about?
This has been an ongoing conversation here for months and months, and to be honest with you, there's so much news that's happening that's already foggy. But there's something in the Ohio rules that have always been an exception to the rule that the legislature and the Secretary of State says these are the presidential candidates before the conferences, even though they're not official. And it's kind of like they just let it go. Like, oh, okay, Trump's the guy, Harris is the guy, or Biden is the guy, or whatever, right? But it's really not official until the conference, the delegates vote on it, and then it is official. But the Ohio has always been, and I think it's in our Constitution that we have to decide like 90 days out or 120 days out that it has to be official. But they always let it slide. And now this year, the GOP legislature has tried to enforce the rule, saying like, "Hey, if you don't get this done by 90 days out, we're not going to put you on the ballot." And they're like, "Wait, what are you talking about? We've always had this, quid pro quo. Yeah. We'll do it for your guy, you do it for our guy." And so therefore they had to change it to, I think, 60 days out or 90 days out or whatever it is. And that comes out to August 7th or something like that. And I guess that would be 90 days out. Long story short, again, I'm getting a little of the details messed up. There's a rule. It's usually been broken. The legislature has said, we'll give you a pass, but you have to do this before this time. And now they have to do this on this virtual thing to get the candidate on the ballot.
So I see why they're doing it, because let me pull this one up. Freedom Caucus chairman. You ready for this one?
Sure.
Bob Good, Freedom Caucus chairman, loses the Virginia primary recount.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's...
Okay.
Yeah, so he was officially then defeated by GOP state senator John McGuire. So Freedom Caucus, I mean, that's Trump. That's the MAGA section.
Okay.
And now there's one of his boys out. You can't tell me like the folks in Ohio didn't see that possibly coming.
I don't think this is unrelated. it's
You don't think they
unrelated.
don't all know each other?
I mean, they of course know each other, communicate, or have some kind of communication with like the upper echelon of people, but I think it's unrelated. I mean, and you said he lost the primary, right? So there's another GOP person in there, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's still the primary,
Yeah,
but
so it doesn't really matter.
he had
He's got the
lost,
primary. Like, who cares if it's the Freedom Caucus person or not?
but he lost to a non-Freedom Caucus
Who cares?
person.
Inconsequential.
No, not really, because I mean that guy could be further left or
I
have a little bit
mean,
more common sense.
I mean, possibly. I mean, look, at the end of the day, Trump controls the RNC, the Republican Party right now. They got his
Yeah.
people in there. He pretty much, overthrew all of leadership. I mean, so if this new non-Freedom Caucus person wants to make it in DC and wins this election, you better play ball, or he'll be primary in 2 years, or he's just going to get something made up about him on the internet and throw him under some bus. So, like, I think it's inconsequential knowing that there is a hardball being played on the Republican side to basically overthrow any kind of pre-Trump leadership.
Okay. Well, good's out.
Okay.
Anyway.
Good is out, and that makes me. I guess that makes me happy.
Yeah, just because I'm talking with this one particular. She might even be listening right now. Shout out to Stacey Ann if you are listening at work. Potential additional presenter on Yerg's Radio.
Great.
She's got a really good active Facebook page where she does allow both sides. Oh, I guess I can take the "We'll Get Started" shortly off the scrolling thing. 1-888-88 Yergs. If you do want to call and say hello, take a part of these conversations. Yeah, where was I going with that? Damn it. I totally just forgot what I was going to say about her.
All right.
I mean, she's a MAGA supporter, and I don't know why I was going to point that out. Not like that's a bad thing. Okay, well, maybe it is. But, all right, well, let's get started with the rest of it then. So J.D. Vance is continuing his spiral. And this is the thing that I said, during the intro. Do these people not want to get elected? Like, have they paid attention to any political campaign before they got in the spotlight? I mean, now he's talking about like Diet Pepsi or Diet, what the hell is it? Mountain Dew?
Yeah, what happened with Diet Mountain Dew? I saw some memes about this. I don't know what the hell it means though.
JD Vance toasts with Diet Mountain Dew after racist joke falls flat. Why are you cracking racist jokes? Yeah, okay, so maybe you're white and so is your entire audience. You don't think there's a camera on you?
Mm.
And you want to vote for this guy? Republicans, not you, not me. But and then he's on. Did you hear the podcast that he was on with regards to abortion and interstate travel?
No.
Okay, so here's what he's saying. Obviously, he's not for abortion on any level. The world knows that. But now he's saying like George Soros is going to send a jumbo jet plane to Cleveland or Cincinnati and pick up mostly black women because that's who's going to need most of the abortions and fly them to California to get an abortion.
Okay.
And he's saying clearly some federal assistance is going to have to step in. And I'm not opposed to that. And I'm like, there's a microphone in front of your face, right? And he just says it like, I'm going to lower taxes. I'm going to make us a positive vision on the world stage again. It's like there's nothing. This is every day. And I just can't think that. And Trump is apparently distancing himself now. Have you seen this?
From JD?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that.
And like, it is so. I'm always skeptical to take some of these talking heads where I do only some of the additional research. Democracy Watch and Brian Tyler Cohen said that the attorney that he has on that show with him said that it's not possible for the Republican ticket to change their VP candidate at this point. They're stuck with him.
Right.
Do you agree?
Right.
You agree?
I mean, I don't know the rules and legalities of it. I mean, that's the most important part. But I mean, I've always said, and on this show multiple times, that the VP pick is going to show you how Trump feels about his candidacy. And
Yeah.
so if he picks somebody like Nikki Haley or Elise Stefanik, then he's going to feel that he needs to reach out to women voters more, and that Midwest mom sort of thing, middle class mom. And with abortion being what it is, that would have been, honestly, I think, probably the best call. But if he picked somebody like Tim Scott, he would feel like he had to reach out to the African American community more. Or if he picked JD Vance, then he feels like he has it in the bag, and he just want to double down on MAGA. And so we really got a sense of what he felt about his campaign when Joe Biden was the candidate. And to be perfectly honest, he was 100% correct in his pick and in his assessment. he was correct. If this was a Trump Biden matchup, Trump would have ran away with it if he picked a slug to be his running mate. To be honest with you, but now that the dynamics has changed, he doesn't have the dynamics within his platform or his party or his campaign to really stick and move with what the Harris campaign is going to be throwing at him. And that's why I feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think JD Vance as a choice was because he's a yes man. He went from being calling Trump the American version of Hitler to being a yes man. And particularly when Trump liked being called the American version of Hitler. I mean, he did.
I think there's two things that are in play here that are also quite interesting. And I also just lost my train of thought right after I started saying that. But where was I going to go with this?
I think we do better when we're drunk.
I can't remember the last time I did a podcast with you drunk, but I do usually have a Celsius or Red Bull with me. But no, what you're calling out is, and this is going to go into what their play with the Kamala Harris and race and all that stuff. What JD Vance is, and I think the Democrats need to double down on, is the chameleon aspect of JD Vance and how he doesn't actually, he's not inauthentic. He doesn't stand for anything. And and he's trying to, and sadly, and I will admit this, that you get a lot of pressure from every political party to conform to their talking points. And the Democrats are just the absolute same. You either conform to all the talking points or you're going to have problems. So so if JD Vance wanted to be where he is, and honestly, he saw a hostile takeover of the Republican Party by Donald Trump, ousting, the head of the RNC, which she was probably not that good anyway. To say, okay, I better conform or I'm not going to have any kind of longevity in politics, and which is what he did, which shows that he's inauthentic and he's this chameleon. And what Trump is trying to do, and the Trump campaign is trying to do with Kamala, is try to show that she's inauthentic as well with the race thing. She didn't say that, right. Oh, she's Indian, she's black, she did this, she's said it this way, she code switches when she's in front of black audiences or Southern audiences or white audiences.
To be
And
fair, I've heard and seen Obama do the same thing.
oh,
He
100%.
gets in,
And this
he gets in
this
front of
I
his,
think what people don't understand about people with multi-race and multi-ethnicities is that you do code switch. This is all
yeah,
part of you. And sadly, is people accept you for there's many layers to culture and your environment and your community that are aren't really apparent to the outsider, but to the insider there is, and how to be
yeah,
that next level of accepted. And if you have grown up in multiple communities and you fit the part, you code switch to be able to relate to people different. And so if you are, say, Indian, Jamaican, or Black Indian, or whatever Kamala, however Kamala identifies herself, you're able to walk into each of those situations as an Indian woman or as a Black woman, and it's
yeah,
totally acceptable.
yeah. And that's what, to get back to your disingenuous point, Trump was trying to make the argument that her whole career, she identified as nothing but Indian when she went to a traditionally Black college and was a member of a traditionally Black sorority.
Yeah, I agree. So like those kind of talking points, I think, fall flat from the Democrats to say, well, she went to Howard. It doesn't matter. You can identify as an Indian woman for most of your life until you're 18 years old, and then go to Howard or historically Black college or university, and then start to discover different parts of yourself. I am a biracial. I'm Nigerian. I hate that word, by the way. I'm Nigerian, Polish, and so I grew up in with a Polish great aunt who spoke Polish, fresh off the boat kind, in a place called Slavic Village in Cleveland, Ohio, and also went to majority Black schools. And so I always had this like different dynamics that I had to. Code switching was part of my life growing up. Now, if I moved to Hawaii, I look Hawaiian. I look
Yeah,
like a skinny rock, so
right.
so I mean, over in Hawaii, people would think I am local until I had these other aspects of the culture that I didn't have. I couldn't speak Pidgin. I tried. I did start to learn, but I also had different habits and stuff that they could tell that I wasn't local, you know. So I mean, and you try to and when you're living in some place like Hawaii or whatever, you try to incorporate yourself and try to immerse yourself in that to be accepted a little bit better,
Sure.
and not as an outsider. And so being a somebody of my complexion, I have a car leaving over here. That's what happens when you're in the garage. But being of my complexion, I'm very easily to walk into different rooms. But then the cultural aspects and the code switching is necessary to be 100% accepted. And so I think that the Democrats just have to really stop playing the like, well, she then went to Harvard or Howard and then all this other stuff. So it shows how Black she is, or the different ways that she's these different cultures, but just say like, hey, I'm allowed to be multiple things at once. It's not a zero sum game here, and you can learn these different cultural aspects of yourself and these different pieces of yourself at different periods of life, and it doesn't negate the other one. It doesn't say like, hey, I'm growing up in Iowa one time, and I'm a white boy in Iowa, and then I moved to the hood somewhere, and now all of a sudden I am, hanging out with a totally different demographic, which is totally acceptable. Anyway, I just think that everybody's trying to show that she's well-rounded, but I think a lot of people are she might be well-rounded now, but growing up, it's not a all-encompassing I am everything at once. You have bits and pieces of this, out throughout your life where you embrace one and let go of the other, embrace the other, and try to figure out who you are, especially since society starts to push a lot of that narrative on you of who you are, And I think from being a gay man and looking like you do, I bet you get that a lot from a different standpoint. Like, you don't look like a gay man. You look like you look like a biker dude that should have tattoos and wear a leather jacket, with drinking beers at a dive bar. This is how yours looks like. But then it's like, oh, but I'm a gay man, and you're like, wait a second, that doesn't fit my narrative that I want to push on you.
Right. Sorry, I think I'm coming down with bronchitis or COVID again or something. But
see,
yeah, No,
typical.
I got that a lot. Is when I come out to some straight guy, they're like taken aback a little bit by like, wait a minute, what? Are you sure? And other gays find me intimidating because, like you said, I don't have as many of the stereotypes that the gay community harbors. So yeah, totally. I got to mute my mic for a second and clear this out.
Yeah. So I mean, and I bet throughout your life, I don't know when you came out or whatever, and I think it's with, and it's the same thing. I think with all these different people who find out different things about themselves at different points of life, that
Yeah,
you are being pushed back in with like the stereotype of society more so, while at the same time you're fighting against something yourself. So, say if you grew up in, you say if you're biracial and you grew up in a white neighborhood, but you obviously walk down the street and people can obviously see you're not white, you still
yeah,
have to deal wrestle with that fact. And somebody like yourself, I would assume that you were told you were a straight man your whole life by society. Said, "Oh, you're boys like girls," and then all of a sudden you're just like, "Hey, you know what? That's not for me." But you still have to fight that, and
yeah.
people still perceive you as a certain way. And so
Right.
Kamala and Barack Obama and all these people and society, and this is what I think the Republican Party is doing erroneously. And I think that Kamala is coming out and trying to fight it in a different way to say, "Oh, but I'm all this." No, you're not. This is something that has been built over time to create the person you are, and I think has a deeper um, understanding of that struggle that society puts on these stereotypical groups. And that's, I think, why a lot of people in the LGBTQIA plus community, from the Black community, and all these different, call them in air quotes minority communities, push back on this, GOP conservatism, this Christianity that says everybody must be this way, and we're all just like, wait a minute, we didn't fit into this box, and this is how we created these diasporas of subcultures, of these different subcultures with that create this vibrant America. And that was pushing back against this conservative fundamental Christian outlook of what it means to be an American. And we've all been pushing back on you, Kamala, myself, Barack, Indian Americans, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, even I think even Biden, he's like the one very, I would say popular, very celebrity Catholic.
Well, Kennedy too. Kennedy had
That's
had,
for
had to deal with
abortion.
that.
Did I say that again?
Kennedy had to deal with that.
About,
JFK.
was he pro-abortion?
No, he was Catholic. He was the first Catholic, and he had to come out, and because he thought that he was going to be. Remember how when he was running, they thought that the Vatican were going to control Kennedy, and they're like, "Well,
Yeah,
is the Pope
yeah,
pulling the strings here?" And he's like, "Wait, wait, wait!
yeah,
I'm American. I grew up."
right. Yeah, but with Biden, he, you think Catholic, he's going to be pro-life, and he wasn't, and that didn't sit well with a lot of Catholics because he wasn't toting that narrative, and the pro-abortion wasn't as believable because he was Catholic. So there's another totally, getting pulled from both sides, both ends. Oh, what do you got going on this weekend?
Oh, just busy, 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 busy.
Yeah,
Wait,
I
what else?
guess
What else is on our docket for today?
so. Yeah, JD and his what was it, Mountain Dew? Kamala's numbers. That's next up. Kamala's numbers are up. She's actually leading. Like, I think it's actually becoming rather substantial and going beyond the margin of error. And then, we talked about Trump and the race card. We've got some political prisoners that arrived back. And what else? Oh, yeah. And then the big thing at 12:45.
I don't know what the big thing is at 12:45. Okay. So when it
That's the
comes to,
DNC thing.
oh, is that 12:45 today?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Um, so when it comes to the Harris Trump polls, I think that we really need to just take a step back and not focus on how much how, do, I think it's really smart just to not focus on like if she's ahead by 2 or 3 points and stuff like that, and we go, oh, we're winning, because I don't think that really matters.
That's why
It,
that's why I was not for Biden necessarily getting out, because
right.
when he was trailing, he was still within the margin of error, which means it could have flipped in the other direction on a second, and he didn't really start campaigning even after the
I think he did
RNC.
actually. That's the sad part. That was his campaign.
Yeah, but even after the RNC, when Trump should have had a jump, as any candidate does after their convention, he didn't, and Biden still held his own. Now, him dropping out, stepping aside, as it was said, I think ultimately is going to be the best decision. But I was also of the opinion that, hey, has anybody just thought about maybe we start campaigning a little bit and pushing Trump to a level where he has to do the same thing? What's that?
He barely campaigned in 2020.
Exactly.
But so here's my thing, and it's not about those polls, like whatever. And look, Biden dropping out, Biden needed to drop out. He was a goner. He lost. He was going to lose. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Democrats didn't want to vote for him. It's as simple as that. But what I'm trying to say with these polling numbers is that it doesn't matter if she wins by, again, 5 million, 10 million votes. It all matters in the swing states. And the polling numbers that are coming out right now are still saying that in the Electoral College, Trump has the lead. So unless you get those 10,000 votes in Wisconsin or Georgia or New Mexico or Arizona or Pennsylvania or whatever it's going to take to get those electoral votes, it doesn't matter how much he wins by or what the polls say. It only matters on those swing states and who's going to come out of those swing states, which is actually really messed up for a democratic process, knowing that our popular vote always goes by the wayside to 10,000 vote spread in Georgia or whatever it is. But that's what it really comes down to. People have to start focusing, in my opinion, on those swing states and know that let's stop the hype and let's stop saying like she got in the bag unless she gets those electoral college votes.
So there we go. There's a question for you then.
I sent you a.
You got that? I just put that up on my own browser. I can.
Okay.
Share screen and while I'm doing that, answer this one for me then. In your opinion, your best guess, who do you see her being as her VP pick?
I'm still going for Mark Kelly.
You think? Even with everything you just said about swing states, you don't think she'll take Shapiro to get Pennsylvania and possibly even Ohio?
Well, first of all, I don't think Shapiro's going to. But if I think again, I want to make this statement because I think we made it last time. Talking about anybody's background, gender, and religion as a detriment and why she shouldn't hire somebody or why she shouldn't have a job or anybody should have a job is so a form of bigotry. But it is a factor when it comes to choosing people in political races. And the reason why they're not looking at Shapiro is because of the Gaza-Israel armament right now and what that does to Michigan and what Michigan is going to look like. Remember, I think it was 12% of people went out to the polls in Michigan and said undecided for Biden in the primary because of the Israel-Gaza thing. So if you get Pennsylvania, but you lose Michigan, what are you really gaining? Does Ohio really care? You're not going to get Ohio in this electoral college, in my opinion. If we get Ohio, we just play the lottery tomorrow because we just won big,
Yeah.
But are you going to? But how does that balance each other out? And second of all, is I don't think that we should pick somebody because they play well in one certain state. I think that Kelly is a seemingly moderate, kind of like rational person that I think that the older Gen X, millennials, boomers are missing within politics. The Gen Zs, I think, are growing up in a way in politics, which I'm not dismissing this in any way toward Gen Zs, is this WWE kind of idiocracy, like political landscape where TikTok.
I hate that. I'm Gen Z, and I hate that.
And the catchy and the catchy. You're not Gen Z. You're Gen X.
That's right. Oh yeah, sorry, my bad.
I'm gonna say, what are
Wrong
you?
letter.
18? You're the oldest 18-year-old looking. I
Yeah,
know.
wrong letter. I
But
still hate
no,
that thing.
yeah, no, we hate that. We don't. We hate that. Have you seen this one lady that's running for AG of Minnesota? Or I'm sorry, Wisconsin, or yeah, no, Minnesota. I will show you her latest thing in a minute, but I think that if you want to bring that together, what you want is somebody that is more of like the John Glenn of the past, or the John McCain. And I think that a lot of these people that are in the middle or up the middle really want to have something that is more familiar to them. And a John McCain, and how many times have you heard somebody from Gen X or a boomer or even a millennial say, man, I miss the old Republicans like Romney or McCain or Kasich or Voinovich or all these other people where you thought they
Yeah.
were so extreme, but now it's just like they're kind of just normal people, and I kind of like them now because they seem to make sense. I feel that that's how Kelly plays in the Democratic Party. He's the old school kind of, John Glenny, John McCain sort of person that people would go like, yeah, that's just a normal dude. I'm gonna, instead of this somebody. And Shapiro, I think he is a great communicator, but I still think he's just that new thing that's just gonna make people go, I don't know. I'm going for Kelly.
Okay.
What do you think?
All right. I was going for Shapiro for a bunch of reasons, some of which actually were because of Kelly. And that is, and we talked about this last week, putting that Senate seat at risk on any level may be a bad decision.
That's 2 years down the road, though.
Yeah. Yeah. But it could be 2 years down the road or 4 years down the road.
Hey, you still got to have to run an election. I don't understand why that makes a difference. Somebody's going to have to run an election, or they're going to have to run a campaign and win. And so the governor gets to, if listeners are wondering what we're talking about, is that if Kelly, who is a sitting senator right now, goes to the White House, the governor then gets to pick somebody to carry out the remainder of his term. But then that person's going to, or the next 2 years, I think it's the remainder of his term, and then they're going to have to run for Senate again. Long story short is Kelly's going to have to run for Senate again. Long story, you can't get away from running for office. Yeah. So, right. So it doesn't, in my opinion, it really doesn't matter that much.
Okay. And then the other thing was with Shapiro, he's really liked in Pennsylvania. And so that's one swing state. And I just think that it would transition into some of the others as well. They all seem to go in the same direction for the most part. Not totally, not 100%, but I think he would be a bigger asset in winning those swing states.
I mean, possibly. I think there's a couple of really good choices. Look, I think here's what I really think that we're seeing now, more so than who's picked. I think that we're seeing that there was a great bench when it comes to the Democratic candidates, that everybody said who else we're going to pick. The whole time, I was never to put Joe Biden on the watch out for this, bro. I'm sorry. Okay. But I was never a Joe Biden fan, to be honest with you. And everybody always says, like, but who else we're going to pick? Every time I was campaigning, who else we going to pick? Who else is there? And now I think that we're seeing that there is a long list of really good qualified people on that list that we just ignored for a long time. And I think it was at the deficit of having a strong Democratic Party and a strong presidential candidate that was going to come out of the gate and really rally up the troops. And I think that's what we're seeing right now. But what I just sent you, and what you just put on the screen, is the person who is running for a Secretary of State in is it Missouri? I think it's Missouri. And dude, she is, I have no clue what the hell this is, but she is literally running this as a campaign, and I can't believe that people are allowing her to do this. I hope I'll be surprised if she wins.
Make sure we had some sound here.
These faggots should get their own faggot category, because before, if a man hit a woman, it used to land him in jail. Now, it gets you a gold medal at the Olympics. These are the worst Olympics in history. They have made a mockery out of Christianity and women. And let me remind you, there's no such thing as a chick with a dick. Keep women
Oh,
towards female.
wow.
So that's Valentina Gomez, and she's just going back.
That's Arkansas. Or,
No, it's not
yeah,
Arkansas.
that's Missouri.
That's Missouri. And anyway, she's been running for Secretary of State. I think she might have a position already, like an AG or something. And she's just has these completely inflammatory. First of all, she knows how to use social media. It's for saying divisive stuff that are going to piss people off and be offensive. That's how you do these things. And she's doing that disgustingly well. And I use both those words. Very, very important. Disgustingly.
No, right. I understand.
Well.
Yeah. Wow. And I don't know if you saw the comment that was right beneath that. The guy writing that comment agreed with her.
Oh yeah.
But
a big following.
But posed a fair question. Why can she say it and he can't?
And her reply is, you can say it because you should only fear God, no one else.
Okay, but here's the thing about that. And I know people keep saying we're a Christian country, and no, we're not. Freedom of religion also meant freedom from religion. More than 30% of our founding fathers were what we would call today atheists. They were not Christians. And how are we going to say we are a safe place for the Jewish community and for Muslim Americans to live if we keep pushing Christian beliefs on them?
Oh, okay. I just looked this up. Missouri's primary is coming up next Tuesday, so she's up for the primary. So she could just be doing this for. I don't think that she has. She's up for election for the primary, so I don't think that. I thought she already went through her primary. My bad. So she's just somebody who's trying to, chase clicks on social media and being a jackass.
So she's not a candidate at all?
She is a candidate, but she has a primary next week.
Okay. Against
so
who?
So she could be out very, very quick, and I would assume that she would be.
We thought that in 2016, didn't we?
Yeah, well, Trump didn't say those things. If you look at her social media, it's not Trump. This is something different.
Wow.
But anyway.
Well, before we wrap up with 99.1, let's take a break, and then we'll figure out that lady as well as what JD Vance has cooking, and move on to some other numbers for Kamala.
Awesome.
99.1 WDJY 1490 WWPR is coming on in about 15 minutes. We're on America One Radio, the UG.media, Rainbow Radio, and Yerg's Radio. We'll be back after these words. Maybe. There we go. Smell nasty. Do you want to freshen it up a little bit? Go to aromabypeter.com. Check out all of Peter's candles. It's what we burn here in Studio Yerg's. I'm burning right now leather scented candle. That's right, leather scented. So go to aromabypeter.com/Yerg's and check out his candles today.
I'm Jane Stahl, retired English teacher, and with my BFF, Susan Bebeck, we manage Studio B Fine Art Gallery in Boyertown, Pennsylvania. We showcase the art of hundreds of local artists, publish books of the poetry, prose, and art of local writers, offer classes, art parties, workshops, discussion groups, cater dinners. We've even hosted a wedding. And we're here to be the go-to place for friendship, learning, and fun in our community. Virtual tours of our exhibits are available right here on Yerg's Radio. Let us introduce you to some amazing art and artists.
Check out Jane Stahl and everyone at
Studio B in Boyertown, Pennsylvania. Please visit our YouTube channel, Talk TV 24. How's your website doing? I'll tell you how mine's doing. It's awesome. Yergs.com is gotta be the best website for anybody in podcasting or any sort of broadcast solo journalist like me. How did I get that? Limit Break Digital. Limit Break Digital did my website with Yergs.com. They did YergerGroup.com. They take care of my marketing, my branding, and help me get the message out to you. Go to limitbreakdigital.com/Yergs for 10% off your next project. That's a $3,000 site, Yergs.com. And you can get 10% off that by just going to limitbreakdigital.com/Yergs today. Talk to Jay. That's my guy. We all got a guy, and Jay's mine. limitbreakdigital.com. Hey gang, it's Yergs. Right now, our country is about to embark on yet another controversial presidential election. I have an actual question, legitimate question, as a political scientist and historian by education. If you are a Trump supporter, I want to hear from you. I want to know what your appeal to Donald Trump is at this time. Please email me news, N-E-W-Z, at yergs.com. News, N-E-W-Z, at YERGZ.com. Thanks. Participants must be willing to provide their contact information, answer a series of questions, and then have their first name broadcast over the radio and social media relevant to Up the Middle. Do you have a podcast? Of course you do. It's probably one of the reasons why you listen to us. Well, I got something for you. Flowsend.ai. All you do is take your pre-recorded data, click, drag, and drop right into the inbox for Flowsend AI. Click a button, and out comes everything that you're going to need. From the transcript to content such as keywords, titles for your episode, the timeline, posts for LinkedIn, posts for Twitter, Instagram, other smaller platforms, all the things that it takes you hours to do in literally minutes. So go to flowsend.ai. Tell them Yerg sent you and get your subscription today. Worth every penny. Flowsend.ai.
All right, we're back. Or at least I am. Where'd he go? There he is.
Here we are.
We're back. So I sent you a bunch of things about, I think, mostly Vance. And I also just pulled up some numbers. One is just out. I don't know if you want to. Yeah, this is just out 10 minutes ago. You know who Scott Rasmussen is? A particularly pro-Trump pollster.
Nope.
He's got Harris up by 5 points.
Oh, again, in the swing states or in the electoral college?
I got one on Michigan coming too. I'll send you this one so you can read over it. We'll talk about it a little more in the next hour.
Copy paste, Yergs. Copy paste. There you go.
That's coming.
Good
There
job.
it is. And here's the one on Michigan. Up in Michigan, still down in Pennsylvania. Wonder who might help with that.
You said up in Michigan, down in Pennsylvania.
That's the one that's sending you right there. Real Clear Politics did that one.
You just sent me the same link twice. Oh, I got it. Never mind. Sorry.
Okay.
Never mind. I gotcha. Okay, cool.
So coming at you.
Up 11 points in Michigan. That makes sense. And Trump is up 4 points in Pennsylvania. Okay. It might help.
You know why that is?
Why is what?
Is that he's getting some sympathy points for
For the assassination attempt
3 weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
You think?
Yeah, I'm surprised. I heard this theory the other day, and the theory is that whoever is talked about more on the media is who's going to win the election. And
We've been saying that.
is that who is that
No,
what we're
we've been saying the opposite.
What's the opposite?
We've been saying whoever stays out of the media is going to win the election because all the coverage was all this negative stuff.
Oh, well, I heard the theory of the opposite because, okay, so here's how the theory goes, is that in 2016 when Trump won the first time, it's like no matter what Hillary did, it was like always the Trump show. Trump dominated the media. But that was the opposite of 2020. Now I'm thinking about it. I don't know. Maybe it's a bad theory. Maybe it's a bad theory.
Well, what were they saying? What was their talking point with it, or their reasoning?
Their talking point for this one was that even though there was an assassination attempt and then on Donald Trump, and that he had this, huge popularity surge right after it, Biden and him dropping out of the race and his health, and then Kamala Harris and everything else overtook the media, and so almost in 1 week, you stopped talking about the assassination attempt, and we're talking about Biden, who's going to replace Biden, is going to be Kamala, is going to be this, is going to be that, and now it's the VP, and now it's the polling, and now it's like Trump can't get back in the news for the past month and a half. So their theory is that if they can continue to dominate the news cycle, the Harris campaign, then they will pull out victorious.
And to that argument, even Biden. I mean, look at last night. The 3 American prisoners of politics, whatever you want to call them, political prisoners, hostages, a journalist, a Marine, and I'm forgetting the third. Earlier Wednesday, there was the exchange that took place in Turkey, and then I guess they were given physicals and whatever, and arrived back last night to the U.S. That certainly doesn't look bad for Biden, and as a result, by de facto, won't look bad for Harris.
No, absolutely not. No, absolutely not. I think that was a major win, finally,
Yeah.
For them. But I think again, yeah, that's going to dominate the media. I think that's going to be a flash in the pan, though, sadly. But yeah, it's like you can't get Trump back into the news. Now, let me ask you something. Like a lot of people are pointing out like Google searches and stuff like that are seemingly to be biased to Harris, pro Harris instead of being pro Trump. When it comes to like searching for things, if you search for poll results, that they are showing more so the poll results that show Harris on top. Do you think that there is a media algorithm bias toward Harris from big tech?
Not at Twitter.
No, definitely not at Twitter. Definitely not.
And I'll tell you another thing, if what's his nuts wants to continue making that claim, of course, we're talking about Elon Musk, then when I don't know what to turn on 2 accounts for Twitter Spaces to launch this broadcast, and I go to put in the clickable keywords. There's 2 types of keywords You can type into a search bar, and they have the other standards that you just click on because that's what's trending. You cannot tell me that as the most watched thing on television right now, which is the Olympics, should not also be trending on your platform, and that it shouldn't be one of the keywords you can click on. You telling me that's not being biased?
Right.
And that's because of his views, having a trans daughter. Oh, how long did it take for that to get out? And now there's a trans boxer, which, to be fair, I don't think we're there yet for trans athletes to competing against the other initial sex. Just like with gay marriage. Clinton was ready for gay marriage back in the 90s. But he was smart enough to know the country wasn't. So he created Don't Ask, Don't Tell and pissed off both sides. I don't think we're ready for an at-birth male to transition to female and get in the boxing ring with a female. It just doesn't. I think there's still some leftover testosterone in there that's going to give an advantage. And that swimmer from University of Penn's a perfect example. On a good day, he was placed in fourth place when he was swimming with the men. He becomes a woman, and he's coming in first every day.
Look, I think you have to wrap up on this one news, our 11 to 12 slot, and then we can move to 12 to the 1 slot. And let's start off with that conversation about this boxer. I've been reading a lot about it, and I think it's a very interesting conversation. It's super interesting.
Yeah, we'll do that then. We'll add that to the list. 99.1 WDJY. We're about to lose you. If you want to continue with us, hop over to 1490 WWPR. You can do that by going to 1490wwpr.com or join us on the regular channel, Yergz, YERGZ, radio.com, and we'll see you there in less than a minute. There we go. Well, that was fast. I think I'll just put like a overlay up, and I'll play that on some other player somehow.
I think that's a great idea, but you're gonna have to carry the show for 2 minutes while I leave for a second. Bye.
All right, I'll be here. So what just happened was we lose our terrestrial station in Atlanta. We only have them for an hour on Fridays, even though the show is 2 hours. And that happened because this show was always noon to 1 because of the spot that we have in Tampa, which we're on now. Quick hello to everybody joining via 1490 on the AM dial in the Tampa Bay area. WWPR, Bradenton, Tampa Bay. We've been on for an hour, and that is going to be the thing moving forward. 11 a.m. is when we're going to start on Fridays. And now every day of the week, Monday through Friday, we are at least 11 to noon. On Monday, we're 11 to 1. And that is also on WDJY in Atlanta. That day, they cover us for both hours. On Fridays, we're 11 to 1. DJY only has us for the first hour, and WWPR has us for the second, and that's who's joining us right now. Welcome to everybody in the Tampa Bay, my home region. Some things we're working on there. My business model for the news portion of Mastiff Media is to acquire small terrestrial stations, AM or FM, and essentially create a network of these stations where we can also connect them all virtually. And then a show like this will be a regional, and obviously when you're on the internet, it's a global show, but a regional show where we'll break off and those individual stations can do local news. And I say that because having followed newspapers as a kid, there were 3 major newspapers that I saw as a kid in my hometown. My own hometown newspaper, which was, I think, weekly. Maybe there was a daily, I'm not sure. But that was called the Boyertown Times. Nearby was the Pottstown Mercury. And then in my own home county was the Reading Eagle. They're no longer newspapers. They're only websites. And maybe you can get a hard copy of the newspaper at the grocery store. I don't think any of them do home delivery anymore. And 2, they're all the same paper. They're all owned by the same company. They all put out the same stories. There's nothing local about it. It's regional at best. So my goal is to try to bring local news back to the community or communities. And if you want to learn more about it, write me, news, N-E-W-Z. That's how we spell it here. N-E-W-Z at yergs.com. Okay, so men punching, like we saw in that well done Twitter post. Yikes. Men punching women would land you in jail. It still does, and it should. Same thing for women punching men. Don't touch me. Unless you're hot, gorgeous, my type, then we can talk. But you should probably at least buy me a rum
with a wiener. Is that what you mean? Your type being
well,
with a wiener.
I've been in both the National League and the American League, and I've been an all-star in both leagues.
I see.
I've been to the all-star game on both sides.
Gotcha. So you a hoe?
Yeah. I'm single. I own it. Not here though.
That's all good. This is the AM radio. We can't talk about your MLB career.
I think if we continue with the MLB analogies, we'll be okay. But I live in the Tampa Bay area in Trumpsville, which, by the way, another indicator to support my argument that I think it's going to be a rather strong showing for Democrats. This time 4 years ago, when I was still visiting this area with the likelihood of moving here, there were Trump signs all over the place. And when I say signs, I don't mean like I don't know what the dimensions are, like the ones behind you right now. That's what, 16 by 24, maybe? Something like that?
I think they're bigger than that. I think they're 18 by 30 or 18 by 32.
Okay. That's not the signs I'm talking about.
I know what you're
I'm
talking
talking about like 8 by 12 feet
Feet, right.
that are supported with, kind of look like the gallows, some of them,
Right.
but definitely
Right.
small temporary billboards. And this is just in people's yards.
I love that, dude. I love that somebody was so committed that they built a billboard in the back of their yard facing some weird ass state route, so everybody can see it.
And there
that's
are
democracy,
none.
man. I love that. I think we're supposed
I
to have that
agree.
passion.
I love that passion as well. I mean, I just got
Not
in
like
an
the
accident.
candid,
with
but I do like the passion.
Yeah, I just got in an accident with it the other night, but as soon as I get my minivan fixed, I'm going to wrap it with Jurg's radio stuff. But my point about all that is I don't see any of it for Trump at all
Still early though.
in his heartland. What do you think that's saying? Is it really the Biden economy that they don't have the money to do it? And I've got an answer for that as well.
I don't know. I would say it's still early. That's all I would say.
No, I'm saying at this time in 2020, you couldn't go a block without seeing something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I just came back from Balboa Island over in Orange County, which is super, super Republican and super Trump. They had all of that up, man.
When you say the Orange County, do you mean the one in New York or the one in LA?
LA.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So Anaheim, that area.
Yeah, all the signs were up in full force. Keep America great. Save America. How can you keep America great and save America at the same time?
So I forget what his name is. He's the one guy, the tall white dude from Comedy Central that goes to all the MAGA rallies and interviews MAGA supporters.
Jordan Kelper.
Yeah.
I think that's his name.
And he says, Kelper. So if we're not great right now, when was America great? And they say, back at the revolution when we fought, tooth and nail, just us. And he said, you mean when slavery was in place and women couldn't vote? Or back in the 1800s, you mean during the Civil War when slavery was in place and women couldn't vote and Chinese people were being persecuted and put into slavery themselves for 2 cents a day? More stuttering. And it didn't matter what time period they said. Like even like after the World War II and the baby boomers came home, still segregation, discrimination. It was only 50 years ago that women could apply for a credit card without their husband's co-signature. That's as old as me. My mom had to wait till I was born before she could get her own credit card.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So
Insane.
When was America great? And my neighbor has a flag, and I love him.
I think America is pretty great, sir. I think it is pretty great. I just FYI.
Compared to, yeah, maybe.
I mean, we're always getting better, and I think that
compared to us, that didn't have to go through any of that, maybe.
Look, I think people are really tripping right now. I think that here's my honest opinion, and I know that there is a lot of things that we still have to fix. There's a lot of jobs that are leaving. There's a lot of wealth disparities, there's a lot of people being left behind. There's an opiate epidemic that is out there. There's a lot of things that are wrong, but this is the best time to live in, hands down, hands down.
Oh
And
yeah.
I think that a lot of people look. You know how comfortable I am just sitting out here in my garage, in my what is it, half-acre lot, next to my vegetable garden with my TV inside, and I have a laptop you know how much wealth I have right now, even though I'm just sitting here middle class in a random town in Ohio, and how comfortable and safe I am. Like, I
Yeah.
think that
Agreed.
we're so we are we are so and we're so lucky in the United States. I want to say other words, but we're so lucky that we lost perspective of what actual, I think, hardships and struggles and possible, being uncomfortable really means. And there's other places around the world that just still continuously live in this. I mean, look at places like Venezuela that in the past decade or so just had a total change in lifestyle. Look at Ukraine. Look at different places, and it comes all of a sudden. It just comes out of a sudden, and then they have to go through life. I mean, I couldn't imagine having a civil war or a war in different fronts of America. Let's just say I'm in Ohio. Let's just say if there was a war on the front of California, and California was holding off the Chinese army, right? Like what that would do to you mentally, what that would do to you in terms of stress, in terms of anxiety, in terms of supply chains, in terms of food insecurity, safety insecurity, in terms of what's happening in your neighborhoods, the way that you look at your neighbors, and that's not even close to you. I think that we're so fortunate right now that we think that we have to find something that's wrong, and there are things that need to be fixed. But we are so fortunate. There's my little rant.
That was good. And you know what? I was actually you just made me think about something. I think we need to pick a weekly topic like that. And totally separate from the election, or maybe not totally separate, but something like that. Is America great? Are we a racist society? Things like that. And debate it, don't debate it, but give our 2 cents in 2 minutes. Oh, I think that's what we'll call it.
I think
2 cents in 2 minutes.
I think that's a great idea. I think that here's another part of my rant. I think that anybody who's thinking that civil war is a way out of any of these issues that we have is so detached from reality of what that actually means for their life. They're the dumbest people on earth. To think that we need to or might go to and don't do everything you possibly can to avert that situation means that you have no clue. You think that you're still going to wake up at 8 a.m. with your alarm clock and go down and eat your Captain Crunch and have coffee there and drive through your Starbucks and complain about taking your kids someplace into the soccer games and then go out and go to the movies at AMC and get the reclining seats with the buttered popcorn. You think that that's still going to happen? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And so, like, I don't want to perpetuate this lifestyle because there's things we have to, get better and work for. But to think that there's some kind of, or hope for that there's some kind of change like that on the horizon, or always be looking for this doom and gloom. I think that we just don't know how unsettling and uncomfortable and traumatizing that would be. I am so happy in this time. I will fight for different rights. I'll fight for different things. But if it doesn't work out, I'll continue to fight. But I do not want violence. I do not want a civil war.
Yeah.
I do not want world war. I do not want our troops deployed. I do not want drafts. I do not want global conflict. I do not want our troops to defend. Like, this is ridiculous to think this. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I agree. I walk my dog around my neighborhood. And I look at my house, which right now, I'm not proud of the front of my house. The past year, more than a year, since like May of 23, I've been in therapy. I've been in a serious downer, PTSD, anxiety, depression. And as such, I haven't really focused on pulling the weeds in the front yard the way my son and I used to do. I've got weeds out there that are 2 feet tall or more. A friend of mine, who there's a bunch of us in the neighborhood that kind of hang out, party, watch football, watch baseball together. And if the house next door to me, who is the one that's flying the Trump flag that I'm going to talk about in a second, is filled up with parking, people park in my driveway, and I know who they are and where they're at. If I got to move them, I don't get my panties in a wad. But one of the guys that parked there used to live in this neighborhood, and he saw the condition of my yard and said, "Is this the Guns N' Roses house?" He sent me a text message asking if this was the Guns N' Roses house. And I didn't know what he meant by that right away. And then he said, in quotes, the title, "Welcome to the Jungle." And I knew what he meant. He's busting my stones for, not pulling. But I'm telling you, depression, anxiety, PTSD, you don't have to be in like the whole shell shock where you're suicidal or crying or whatever every day. And I did my share of crying. Let there be no illusions. You don't have to be in some level like that to still have a debilitating mental status. And as such, the front of the house went to crap. And the back started picking up too. And I said, no, it's time to get a hold of it. The backyard, the outdoor kitchen area, the porch swing, the floating docks, that all looks good. After the show today, we're going to, get sweaty and go to it. But still, I walk around the neighborhood. I've got a canal in my front yard, I've got a canal in my backyard with 2 jet skis tied to it. Other neighbors have different types of boats. We're not so much a yacht community as we are a fishing community. So everybody pretty much has a center console type of boat. I'm actually looking to get something like 30s, 40 feet, liveaboard, or at least a camper on the water. Maybe not necessarily a yacht, but something I can go tie up to a spit somewhere, a small key, and spend all or part of a weekend. But I just look around the neighborhood on the water and think about how lucky I am, how much I'm glad that I spent 21 years not being home for Christmas, because now I can spend 21 days or more not doing anything. Yeah, I've got a good pension. I agree. While we might make an argument that things aren't great, we can easily make an argument that things are much better. And you're right, this is a good time to be alive.
It's a great time to be alive. An amazing time to be alive. Lowest crime in history. No, relatively, let's say relatively no wars, no big pandemics. I mean, we did just have one, but you know what I'm saying? There's no like.
That's 100 years, we got another 97 years before we see that again mathematically.
And so, I mean, it's just such a, in the wealth that we do have here in America is unrivaled. It's unrivaled around the world. And I think that, for somebody who's been to multiple countries around the world and understanding what we have here, it's just, we should be so thankful. And I do understand there are people that are paycheck to paycheck, even worse, or broke or on credit cards and live in situations and areas within the United States that are very bad. But so there are things that we have to look at. But I'm talking about generalizing here, and and I think that we just have to really remember, like, things can get worse, and things getting worse unless you really want to tear down the system, which I would love to modify. And I think there's some major reforms that we do need, but I mean,
Yeah.
if your life is so bad, if your life is really that bad that you want America to go to war with somebody or with itself, then I think that I hope you are getting help before you start trying to advocate and wish that on America.
Do you think we're kind of sort of at a certain level of civil war? That perhaps it's not a violent one yet, or every day, or organized military versus military. But think of like the different things in the media. Look at what we're doing. We are middle of the road. We are right and left. We welcome that. We kind of require it. No other network, no other show is like that. If you do find anything for the left on the radio, it's for the left. And everything else in talk radio is Bible thumping conservative with absolutely zero practice of the teachings of Christ. You got a breeze coming through your garage, and I can see your signs waving.
Yeah. Yeah, man. That's America. That's the spirit of America coming through my garage.
But you were saying about having traveled the world. I remember I've got a place in Belize, Central America. And I remember two places there. One in the middle of the jungle. This family lived in, I don't even want to call it a shed. If you've ever hiked along like the Appalachian Trail or some state park, there are these structures called lean-tos. It's like a cabin with 3 walls instead of 4. And so that 4th wall puts you totally exposed to the outside, but it does have a roof. In the event that you're sleeping out and it rains, you're still covered that way. That was their house. I saw the little boy on what would be considered their front lawn naked, because that's how they lived. And kicker of that was, you see Belize, you think Central America, okay, they're of Mayan culture or, some sort of Hispanic, Latino skin tone. They were white. And they were happier than pigs in poo-poo.
In poo-poo, sir. Very good.
Yeah.
Very good for AM radio.
That's not the first time I caught myself today.
We probably let ourselves slip a couple of times. We just didn't notice it so far, but
we have in the past. We definitely have in the past.
100%.
100%. Then there's another one in more of a downtown setting. This town called Placencia. Again, this house right on the main drag was nothing more than a shed. And the one day I walked or drove past it, I saw there was a huge hole in the wall up by where the corner of the building meets the roof. And the next day, or one of the days following, I walk past it or drive past it again, and I see the hole is fixed with a basketball backboard, is what they used to close up the hole. But the type of backboard that they used was the one that has the rounded top, not a rectangular backboard like you see in the NBA, but the rounded top like you might see like a high school or in a playground. And as such, it didn't fully cover the hole. Could not have cared. They had the hole fixed. And on top of that, they had the hole fixed with a basketball backboard that they can now play basketball with in the street. And so when I see people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, on some cases, she's growing on me, but in some cases, Alexandria Ocasio Cortez, AOC, when she first came in, she was the Marjorie Taylor Greene of the left. I think Aunt Nancy sat her down and explained life to her.
Huh.
And because that's who was running the show then. And I think, she's no dummy. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert. Yeah. I don't know.
No, Pelosi's not no dummy. That's for damn sure.
No, Pelosi but I mean, AOC. AOC is no dummy. I'll give her that. She's very well researched. But yeah, so I like that idea. We're gonna have to, and we got to do better about conversing during the week.
So I think that I don't know what position a lot of people are in, and I think that's a failure of our society and the way that we're conditioned, is we don't talk about a lot of different topics that are taboo, and I think money is one of those. And in money, sex, sexuality, those are spirituality in multiple different facets, not just from a I go to church Christian sort of, but just like spirituality. And anyway, long story short is that we don't really talk about being grateful and thankful enough. We say it like, people sit down and it's just like this weird habit that you say is like, so I sit down and I say a prayer and I say, God, thank you for the food, and thank you for my mom and dad, and I'm happy everybody's healthy, and it's like this weird kind of like ritual that you go through, but you don't really understand and appreciate what you have by putting it into a perspective and understanding what you got. There's always this want or need to get more and more and more, and I think that by taking a step back to understand in a perspective of what you have is very important. So I've been looking at like retirement numbers and 401k for the past couple months, and because I really wanted to understand like how much people have. You see these older people retired and they're not working, they're just hanging out, and it's like, okay, so what do you have to do to get there? My family is not open with money and stuff like that, so you have to figure it out. The mean, and that means I think the mean is or whatever's right in the middle, right? If you have everybody up in a line right on the middle,
right?
50 people, if you had 100 people, 50 people are above you, or I'm sorry, 49 people is above you, and 49 people or 50 people is below you, or whatever it is. On retirement at 65 years old, if you're right in the middle, you only have $65,000. $65,000, and if you are the average, you have $265,000. If you have anywhere up around $800,000 at retirement at 65 years old, you're in the top 10% of people. And so I think that, by understanding like just the different numbers of, like 50% of the people can have a $500 make an emergency payment with $500. It just shows you not only one, we have a huge wealth discrepancy and who has what and who doesn't, but also I think that if you do have, it should put you in perspective. If you do have, that $1,000 to come up with, an emergency fund, or $2,000 or $10,000, or if you have
two flat tires because you hit a curb on the way to an interview.
Exactly. And if you can fix that without, stressing out about it, I think that you really got to start considering yourself lucky. If you want to look at like the crime in your neighborhood and understand like different people and how this affects you, like I think that's just a perspective of how different things could be. It would make people a lot more grateful for their situations. And I think we should just be much more grateful and thankful. And if you are, I guess, above the average, take that, I guess, blessing that you do have of being in a fine, $800,000 isn't a multimillionaire. You're not having a yacht, you're not driving a Lambo, but you're better off than 90%. Use that as a way to do good, to be thankful, and to live a life of, I guess, gratefulness, of prosperity. And I think that that's something in America that we don't do enough of, because for some reason we're conditioned that if we don't have the Lambo and we're not taking private jets around the world, that somehow we have failed, and that we need to continue to have more. And so we keep making ourselves have anxiety and depression and this weird kind of like false equivalency to something that is pretty much unattainable for 99.9% of the people. When right now you do have a very good situation, and I think that we just have to appreciate it more. Wow, I just went all like Alan Watts on somebody here. Like, what
It was good. It was good.
No, I think it's just something that I think in the United States we just have so much abundance. We throw away food. We waste a lot of stuff. We're just such wasteful, and we do a lot of stuff that is like when I moved back to the U.S. I moved back to the United States 6 years ago from China with 2 bags, a big suitcase and a small suitcase. And I lived out of that big suitcase and that small suitcase for 20 years. That was all my clothes. That's all the stuff I allowed myself to have. I had a backpack with my laptop and my headphones. That's about it. In a big suitcase and a small suitcase. That's all I had. And now, because of the abundance of the United States, I have a garage full of shit. I'm sitting in it. I have a motorcycle, a scooter. I have propane containers over here. I have an Ego lawnmower and blowers and all this stuff. I have 2 bikes and all this stuff, a couple motorcycle helmets. I have 2 cars in the driveway and all this stuff it's just like this abundance that we have. And we just don't stop to take a look and like, wow, wow. I'm so lucky.
I am downsizing that very concept. I've gotten rid of a lot of clothing. The day I left Los Angeles to start driving across the country to start my retired life. And first of all, when you talk about what people have as far as assets, I only started retirement with 300,000. And that was why I started day trading.
Which is above average, by the way.
I had to do some.
And also, wait a minute, you were in your 40s when you did retirement too, right?
50.
You were 50. So you were way ahead of the curve. Way ahead.
Yeah. Well, that's gone. The 300,000 is gone because I should have. everybody that retires out of the Secret Service, because of the type of IRA type of thing we have called thrift savings program, you should be in the 800s to $1 million when you leave after at least 20 years. I did not manage that properly to put it in the more aggressive funds so that it would grow. And I didn't know how. So I thought, well, what am I going to do to get some money out of this? I used it all for the 2 jet skis out back, which was not a good investment, and they weren't supposed to be. But the rest of it, almost every last penny, went into the down payment of my house. Bought this for $450,000. It's now pushing $6 less than 3 years later.
Crazy.
And so, I feel okay that way now. But the other determining thing, when I left, I was making, with some overtime that I was having to work, I was making almost, for a number of years, $160,000 a year gross. And when I figured out that they were going to pay me roughly $72,000 a year to not come to work, bye.
Peace.
There's no reason. And, I've missed my share of Christmases. I've had my share of really long days. Sometime I'll tell you about the stories about how I campaigned with Hillary Clinton back in 2008 when she was running against Barack in the primaries. And we were doing 18 hours a day, 5 cities or more a day. And I say cities, I mean like Orlando to St. Louis. Not like DC, Annapolis, Baltimore, quick drives from one to the other. We were getting on a jet and flying and landing, getting all the gear out of the jet, putting it in the follow-up in the limo, and then off to the next one. So, yeah, I feel very fortunate. I take some credit to myself in that, I stuck it out when times were tough in the Secret Service. I was investigated 3 times for reasons that I was able to prove the only reason they were looking into me was the fact that I was gay. 2 of those investigations came during the Trump administration. So yeah, I see how there's aspects where we're not great yet. But when I think about those houses in Belize, I also see how we're amazing.
Right. Absolutely. Nah, we just have to have, I think, a little more gratitude, a little more cafe gratitude in life. I mean, I just look at it sometimes and just like really, just so. The interesting thing is, you said we're downsizing. Again, you're downsizing. You're getting rid of all your clothes.
I am. Oh,
Yeah.
that's what I forgot to tell that part. I am. So when I left LA, I took 9 some of them were Brooks Brothers. I can't even remember the name of the one men's clothier. You have my promise, you have my word on it, or something like that. We make you look good. I forget the guy that does that, but yeah, I took 9 suits to Goodwill. We have a monthly veterans group that comes by to take clothing. I just cleaned out the closet here in the studio so I can put gear in the closet and not have it, sitting all over the place. I outgrew a bunch of shorts that used to be 34, 36 that my fat ass doesn't squeeze into anymore. I'm going to surrender that battle and get rid of them.
Isn't that interesting how easy that stuff came for you though? I mean, you're having to give stuff away. You have to give away clothes because for some reason, just clothes just started piling up out of places and suits. And
Yeah.
I had the same thing. I have clothes that I don't wear anymore. Then it's because of the crew and calories. You said your fat ass doesn't fit into the suits anymore. Calories just came out of nowhere, specific. And now we have to think about how to get rid of food out of our diet because we just have so much calories and so much food, and it just comes out of nowhere. And we have to clear out. We have to downsize, and like that is, if that isn't prosperity, I don't know what it is. That you can accidentally have so much clothes. You can accidentally have so many calories. You can accidentally have so much material stuff in your garage that you have to think about. Oh, I'm losing space here. It just keeps acquiring. Like that is bonkers. And this is no other time in history, unless you were like of the elite of the elite of the elite, that this would happen. Even them, even a king in like somewhere, like they have to literally physically go out to try to find that stuff. They don't just magically have goats and cows and horses running around. They're like, oh, we have to figure out how to get this. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. We should just be so thankful.
And I do, like I said.
Hi, Stacy. Stacy's here.
What do you got there?
Stacy just tweeted and said, I'm here, Yergs. You want to bring Mega Stacy in?
Oh. Yeah, there we go. I think that is the Stacy that I gave the shout out to in the last hour. I'm looking at her. She was messaging me on, and that's the other thing I want to say, everybody. I got some messages on my personal accounts.
Oh, she's at work.
Yeah. It is that Stacy. Yeah, she's in customer service at a body shop, I think she said. This Stacy is the conservative Trump supporter that I told you about. We're talking about, she's a mutual friend introduced us, and he is of the opinion she should have a podcast or radio show. She has a very open-minded Facebook page that allows that. Well, we're glad for that. Keep listening. Tell your friends about us. Help us grow. We are growing an impartial, multi-viewpoint community. She's blowing me up with the comments
Fiscal
now.
conservative, not religious conservative, she says.
Okay. Well, and that's the other thing is that, what I find fascinating about what's called, I just heard somebody refer to it yesterday or the day before, the religious right, meaning the right side of the political spectrum is where the religious people fall. And I think some of them, most of them, many of them are anything but the teachings of Christ or Christianity.
Really quick, I want to ask the fiscal. So everybody says they're fiscally conservative, which means that they want to make sure that they budget properly and that the United States doesn't have a lot of debt and they don't spend wastefully. And I always look at fiscal conservatives and I always say, okay, cool. That means that you have no debt and you are budgeting. You have no credit card debt and you have no student loan debt and you're actually budgeting properly and you have your emergency fund, packed up too. And you know how many people usually say, well, no, I'm talking about the government. I go, well.
Yeah. You got to practice what you preach. And here's a conservative for you. You know who got me into a much better shape, condition financially?
Hope Stacy comes on the show. She said, I want my government to spend our taxpayer money properly, which they don't. Again, love when fiscally conservative people say that, but they don't do that with their own funds. And I'm not dissing you, Stacy. I am just making the observation.
She's enjoying the show, even though she doesn't agree. That's okay. We welcome that. That's why you should be calling. And I want my government to spend our tax money properly, which they don't. Yeah. And I think I know one place she's going there, and that's the flag, not the flag that's in my immediate background, but the one encompassing the entire screen for those that are just on audio only, whether it's the radio or Twitter Spaces or any other social audio is a term I've learned within the past month or so. We are flying the Ukrainian flag as a backdrop for the video.
We should start putting the American flag back there, by the way.
Well, then what am I going to put behind me?
I don't know. You put the Ukrainian back there, but we should be
me?
united by the American flag, not the Ukrainian flag, sir. I don't know if you missed my rant, but we are in America right now.
Know.
And by the way, I want to say Stacy just sent a text that says she has her stuff together fiscally. So, okay. Shout out to you. You go, Stacy. Again, both sides of the aisles are bad with money. And so, people that bring up these kind of points in fiscally conservative, I just want to make sure that people are, when they say these things, they actually practice what they preach, because it's very easy to say things and then say, oh, well,
So a conservative
me, though.
Me. Yeah, right. A conservative that got me back on financial stability, financial independence, or financial freedom, as he likes to call it. Dave Ramsey.
Dave's the man, and Dave is the man. Honestly, he is. Okay, so I have two opinions that I've been talking a lot in this. I apologize, Jurg.
Oh, go. This is good.
Okay. But here's my opinion about Dave.
You know what? I do got to say something, though.
What?
It's almost kind of nice not having Blake around all the time.
Oh,
we get to talk.
Stop. I miss Blake. I haven't talked to Blake in over a month. I can't wait to see him on the next show.
Yeah.
So Dave is kind of, what's the word? Kind of a curmudgeon on his show, and I don't like his show, the way that he presents himself on his show to some people that make poor choices a lot. He does have this other show called Entre Leadership that is really good for small businesses, and I think that he's a very different person in that. So I have a lot of respect for Dave, but I also don't like the way
he tries to do the Christian tough love thing on his financial.
Yeah, and I don't like it because he sounds like a I don't know if you could say he's a dick on the radio, but he is. And I think that but I do like the people he has. Like his daughter's great, pretty understanding. The Jade, the last person he hired, which was one of the best hires he's ever done. But I really I watched a lot of Ramsey, and I think that if everybody wants to argue with Ramsey, but you cannot argue with him. Pay cash, don't go into debt, don't spend more money than you have. The only thing you should have a debt on is your house. Um, and the other thing he is about credit cards. A lot of people say, and I understand when he's going with this, and I want to explain where he's going with this really
Yeah,
quick.
I know what
He
you're
says
saying.
don't use credit cards. Use debit cards, because what's happening is somebody's paying for those benefits that you have. And if you're having 25% interest rates on your credit cards, but you pay off your credit card every month, who's not doing it? So you created and are perpetuating a system that you're taking advantage of the people who are stupid and don't pay off their credit cards, or poor and can't take out their credit cards, even though they can't, even though they might be smart enough, but they're just put in a situation where they have to use credit card debt to get by in their situation, which could be self-inflicted or not. Who knows? But I'm just
Right.
no judge. And so I really think that people say like, well, I can get 1.5% back on everything I purchase, or I can get free miles with my cards, which is great for people. But from a Christian point of view, it is not Christian to perpetuate a system that puts a lot of people in hurt. And that's where he says with that credit card. So I think that he gets a lot of flack for that, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Use a debit card.
Yeah, I've for the longest time I've had nothing but a debit card. Even through travel, it was hard traveling with the Secret Service like that, because I'd go to a hotel and they run your card for a deposit to hold in case you like blow up the liquor bar in your room. Well, with a debit card, you don't get that money back right away. It's held for almost a week.
Yep.
When you're sleeping in a different place every night for a week, that's $1,000 you've got tied up that you're not going to get back.
Oh, you mean if you use a debit card?
Yes.
That is a very good point. That is a very good point.
And so I had to get at least, like a $500 card so I could, not spend 1,000, or not spend 1,000, but not have 1,000 held that I needed. Or I'd have to go to an ATM machine. I'd have to go to an ATM machine and get $100 in cash, at least, sometimes more, to give them cash. And then when I check out, I can't just drop my key or leave it in the room. I got to go get that money back.
That is a very good point. I just was in a couple hotels down in California, and I think the total outstanding charges on all of my cards at the same time was around $2,500 for a rental car and a couple hotels for in whatever fees that they put. And it's just like, I got it all back, but it was substantial. It was substantial.
Yeah. But the other thing I do.
Hey, just looking at the time, Ross. Just do you want to go to this convention?
Are we there? Oh yeah. Let me see if I can even find that.
I think Stacey would be great to have on the show. Hopefully, she comes on sometime. She agrees with me on my Ramsey critique.
Kamala Harris now leads Trump in 7 national polls.
And by the way, I do think Donald Trump wants to be president. I think that just like
he wants to be a dictator.
I think that he's human, and I think that a campaign was preparing for Biden, and honestly, was taking almost a victory lap after the debate, and just got the rug pulled out from him. So I think that they're a little depressed. I think they're a little unorganized. I think that they had to recall a lot of their messaging team because they had to get a new strategy. I don't think that he doesn't want to win. I think that he's just. I think if I was a campaign manager there, I would be like, first a little demotivated, and then a little bit confused of what to do and how to move forward. And I think that's what you see when you see Trump at these different events trying out different things. What's going to stick for Laughing Kamala or Lying Kamala? Yeah. And he spells it. He's like laughing, LAFFIN', and he's just trying to figure out what's going to work and what's going to stick, because he doesn't know. He didn't have a whole year or 2 years to think about this and try it out. And so he has only a couple months. So no defense to Trump. What I am just saying is I think if I was running that campaign, I would be in the same situation going like, wow, but we are in a bad situation right now.
I think I might have found it. Maybe not. Something kicked off. 6 minutes ago, but I don't know if that's actually live. Two weeks ago.
Dead air. Dead. I'll
Yeah.
just keep going on
Sorry.
rants, right? While you
Yeah,
look for
yeah.
this.
Keep
Because, again,
ranting.
just dead air on AM radio.
Yep. Keep
With Ross
ranting.
just scrolling on Grinder or
I don't
whatever
know
he's
if this is live, though.
scrolling on.
There's something that happened
The
a couple
upcoming
minutes
Democratic
ago.
National Convention won't have much suspense, with Vice President Harris the only candidate to qualify for the nomination. Our political reporter Justin Gick has more.
It has been an unprecedented couple of weeks for the Democratic Party, with President Biden dropping his bid for re-election and Vice President Harris now the presumptive nominee. Originally, there was speculation that there may be an open convention with others jumping in. However, this news has sealed the deal. Democratic MPL National Committeeman Jamie Selzler says there were 5 candidates who actually notified the DNC that they were running. One of them was Vice President Harris. He says the other 4 names he had not heard of before.
Vice President Harris received nominations from 99% of the delegates. As a delegate, you weren't even required to nominate, but the fact that almost every single delegate nominated her tells you how excited people are about her candidacy heading into the convention this next month.
Selzler says he doesn't expect the platform at the convention to change a lot following the swap of presidential candidates. He says we should expect at any political convention that there will be some discussion and debate about what the party believes. Selzler says the Democrats over the last few weeks are newly energized and engaged. He says he has been involved in politics for more than 30 years and has never seen excitement to this level that he has seen in the last 10 days.
Turn now to the race for the White House. Vice President Kamala Harris could officially lock up the Democratic nomination as early as today as she comes closer to locking in her running mate. Rachel Scott is following the latest developments. Good morning, Rachel.
You want to see this?
Hey, Rebecca, good morning to you. That's exactly right. Vice President Kamala Harris could just be hours away from officially locking in the Democratic nomination for president. In fact, just moments ago, we learned that her team is already planning a virtual celebration for later this afternoon. Overnight, the Harris campaign announcing this morning they have raised $310 million in July. And all eyes now turn to who Harris will pick to be her running mate. We're expecting that decision by Tuesday. Sources tell ABC News that her vetting team has met with 3 leading contenders: Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, and Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. Meanwhile, former President Donald Trump continues to double down on his controversial attacks, questioning Vice President Kamala Harris's racial identity. While some Republicans have said those attacks went too far, his running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, who is the father of 3 biracial children, rushed to his defense, saying those comments do not give him any pause at all. Harris, for her part, not directly weighing in on those attacks from the former president, but she goes on to say that the Republican ticket continues to divide this country with.
Rachel Scott for us. Thank you so much.
Fox 31's your local election.
So there we go. A biracial father can't announce disparaging comments like that because he wants the power. And that's J.D. Vance.
Okay.
Still there?
I'm here.
You just agreeing with me and just like
I don't know what JD's motives are or his outlook on this. I don't know.
oh, come on. He went from calling him the American version of Hitler and calling him an opioid to now all of a sudden he's okay to bust Kamala stones for going from supposedly Indian to Black American.
Look,
And we talked about that in the first hour.
I gave my opinion on the whole biracial, multiracial conversation. I think that's all I am. I'm not going to try to get into other people's heads with it. I mean, and I think that it's also rather disingenuous and offensive to say J.D. Vance, being a father of multiracial kids and an Indian wife and so on and so forth, to assume that I know what he's going through or dealing with and how his stances are as well. I think that's I'm not going to go that far as well.
What are you running for office or something?
Maybe.
Sorry.
Maybe. Sorry. No, I mean, I'm serious. It's kind of like getting into my mother's head about this. Who's a white woman who, lives in a white town and has white family members. Like, it's like but then when people call me a black candidate, how does she feel about it? And so it's like, and how does she feel about raising me the whole time? Growing up, it's something that is very personal. I think that trying to get into the personal aspect of a parent in this situation, especially during a campaign or in contentious times where identity is being called into question, is very hard to do. And I think it's very hard to do from a personal aspect without talking to him personally. So I'd really rather not weigh in unless he really, really, says something offensive.
Yeah. Give it time. So with
I will give it time. Don't worry. We're all ears. But
yeah. With the 3 minutes left, what do you think about that 99%? A number of delegates that didn't have to vote because essentially their vote was going to her anyway. But they openly said, "Yeah, I'm for Kamala." That's pretty solid.
I mean, ish. Go
ahead. Take the 2 minutes.
No, man. We won't take them 2 minutes. Let's just welcome candidate Vice President Harris to the ticket, and let's make sure that we fight and support and campaign properly, and let's win in November.
Yeah. So wrapping up, Stacey's back. She doesn't think anybody handles Trump. I think he says what he wants to say. Oh, I think we all know that. They may give him some suggestions, which he may use them for the most part. I don't think he uses them. I don't think he uses them at all. When in 16, how did that happen? Did I click on the wrong one? In 16, when he was running, he was tweeting all kinds of stupid crap. And then all of a sudden his tweets got, intelligent. Well, that's when his staff had it.
Who?
He said, Trump.
Oh.
And he said, I want my toys back. 1490 WWPR, Tampa Bay. We're about to lose you. We'll see you again in a week. Don't forget, you can find us daily now, or at least me. Matt's not going to be with us every day. He's always welcome. You can find us daily, and you can get him at Matt at dailycryptonews.net. You can get the Daily Crypto News through his own podcast and on Yerg's Radio, as well as info at deemerforcongress.com. Remember, he's running for Congress in the 7th District of Ohio. Blake will be back with us next week. He has his podcast, The Homeless Conservative, available at thehomelessconservative.com. And eventually we're trying to figure out getting him on Yerg's Radio as well. You can get all of us by writing news, NEWZ, at yergs.com. We on the number? We on the dot? We're coming down to it. So let's peace out. All right, everybody. That's it. We'll see you again next week. No. I'll see you all on Monday.
Peace.
Thanks for joining us. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Have a great weekend. See you, buddy. Great show. I need a producer.